pictures of this event. We can actually film it for you. We'll post it up to the chamber website, so it'll be fully available to everybody and anyone that wants to see it. But as far as taking films and that while we're doing it from other folks, please do not do that. So our format for our candidates this morning, and first of all, before we get into those details, I want to welcome you. I want to welcome you all to our first exit issue, and I want to welcome you to what's going to promise us to be an exciting election session. And most importantly, I want to thank you for being here to become an educated voter. That's what this country is built upon, and I am very grateful and appreciative that you are here today. So with that, we have a format for our candidates this morning. So each candidate will get 3 minutes to do an opening, who they are, what they want to share with you, and their background. Following that, I, as your moderator, will be asking questions that you all generated and keep generating, which is great. This is how it works, folks. You're part of democracy. I've arranged, and I try to arrange questions into formats and topics. We get a lot of duplicate questions and sometimes variations on the same question, so I try to squish them together. But I try to make sure that all the questions are somewhat equitable and fair, and everybody gets hit with the same questions or variations. But the bottom line, you get asked a question and you get 1 minute to respond. And then with that, if you go over that minute, you'll find that I get closer to you. And then I got this big hook, and if I need to, I'll pull you off the stage. Now, if during the course of your opponent giving an answer, and they're saying things that you say, wait, that's not me, I strongly disagree, we have the challenge card in front of you. You just simply raise the challenge card. And that'll give you an opportunity to challenge your opponent's response, at which point, after your opponent finishes their response, they can, then you can respond back to them, but then that also gives them an opportunity to counterpoint stuff. All right, so then, so that's the challenge card, and these are, we don't have a location. So unlimited challenge, folks, like Battle Royal. Okay, so that's a good thing. And then finally, when we get towards the end, that when we complete the time, I will call the questions, and then I'll give each candidate 2 minutes to give a summary statement. You can readdress questions, you can reverse or reiterate stuff that you stated before. Just lasting 2 minutes to let the audience know where you're coming from, what you're thinking. So, timekeeper, this is really important. We stay on time. This is Frank, he does our time. So number one is that when you get and when you have 30 seconds left out of that
3 minutes and 2 minutes?
3 minutes or 2 minutes, you're going to see that come up. Now, if that means you only have 30 seconds left. If you're doing the 1 minute questions, that comes up at 10.
10 seconds, yeah.
That's 10 seconds. Then when you see this one come up, this is the one where I start getting really close to you, okay? And start saying, your time is over, even if you might be passionately prevailing on an issue, I will ask for you to simply say, thank you very much, and let's move on towards it. It's fair, so no one dominates the question. Are we ready? All right, folks, let us begin with eggs and issues. So, yeah. Thank you, Frank. Frank, remind me one thing. If you happen to have one of these rectangular odd things in your box, your purse, your pockets, whatever, please turn them to mute, turn it to buzz, turn it to silence. If this goes off during this session, if your phone goes off during this session, we will ask that you make a voluntary donation of $20 to a nonprofit of our choice. And our nonprofit of choice is?
In observance of United Way's Day of Caring, we're going to do United Way this week.
United Way, all right. Now, if you think we're going to track you down to make sure you give that $20 donation, you're absolutely wrong. So this is Scouts Honor, whatever you want to call it, all right? Second thing is bathrooms are down that hallway to the left. In case of a fire emergency, exits are to your left and straight behind. Pretty good, I should have been an airline. All right, now we're ready to begin. So, candidates, we're just simply going to start on this side. Marty will let you begin. You get 3 minutes. Introduce yourself to our audience this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out today. I appreciate it. By way of introduction, I'm Marty Clinton. I'm an Eastern Washington boy that grew up in Grand Coulee Dam. I'm an Eagle Scout. I came over here. But for your sake, I live here, work here, and raise my kids here. The last 18 years, I raised my kids in Bremerton and Gig Harbor, and I have 2 left in Gig Harbor High School, so this district matters. What we're doing today is beginning the hiring process for those who are going to represent you in the Senate. Your choice. You're in charge. Who's going to be more responsible, more wise with your tax dollars? This is what we're here for. And when you're doing any hiring process, and I know many of you have hired people on the spot. I've hired people as well. And what I look for are a couple of things. One is relevant experience. I've got 14 years in healthcare where I'm working as an anesthesia tech. I've got the last 19 years now in real estate where I've managed offices, I've done real estate, helped people buy their dream home, negotiate contracts with people across the aisle. I've got media experience. I've got community involvement experience. Those are all important as far as I'm concerned. How about character built through hard times, overcoming? We've just about lost everything, but still survives. My son with leukemia twice, my wife with breast cancer and a brain injury. And yet our family is stronger today in our faith and our resilience to serve our community. That's tested. History of service, everywhere from being an Eagle Scout in Grand Coulee Dam, to serving in the parks in Seattle, to teaching the Little League right here in Bremerton, or Habitat for Humanity, or serving in Rotary in my church in Gig Harbor. It's a history of service, and that will continue as your senator. And of course, work ethic. Work ethic is important. When you see it all over this time and over this my lifetime, it's been a series and a history of working hard. And I dedicate myself to working hard for you in this district. Now, I said there are things in this district I really, really want to do. Having lived here, and I know the experiences and problems we're having, congestion is becoming an issue. Janet Angel, who endorsed me to take her place, thank you very much, Janet, started a congestion project to find relief for all our families here. We also understand there's a push of more and more increased taxes and burdens on families. Being in a family where literally $100 was not enough to get through the month, to pay the bills, because of dealing with medical bills. I understand how even the slightest increase in your taxes can be a burden on all families. I understand how important education is as well. There's a way, I want to champion in expanding educational opportunities for every kid across our district from Bremerton, Fort Richard, Gig Harbor. And I'll leave you with that for now. Today, you'll have a chance to decide between the 2 candidates as far as who represent this district and you and your values better. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. And Emily, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Emily Randall, and I grew up in this community. I'm from Fort Richard in a family of veterans and union workers, Bremerton firefighters, and educators, and Harrison Hospital, and Puget Sound Sugar employees. My grandparents on both sides moved to Kitsap County in the 50s and 60s to find economic opportunity and a better place to raise their family. On my dad's side, my grandparents moved from Ogden, Utah to escape racism. And they were able to find a wonderful community, a welcoming community, a place where they could buy homes, and raise their kids, and retire in dignity. They lived the American dream. And that left me with a sense of patriotism and a love of my community. It wasn't without hard times. My sister Olivia was born when I was a little girl with severe developmental disabilities. She was born with microcephaly, which is what Zika is causing in babies, and we didn't know how long she would live. My dad worked at PSNS and made just too much money to qualify for Medicaid. But that year, the legislature expanded Medicaid, and Olivia got covered, which meant that when she lived for 18 years longer than we thought she might, our family didn't risk losing our home and losing everything in order to keep Olivia living at home with us, and to allow her to go to public school and live a full life. And that was the first time that I saw the power of good that government could have in real people's lives. And I decided to go on to have a career giving back to my community. I was the first in my family to go to college, and when I graduated at the height of the recession, I knew that I needed not just a job to pay my student loans, but one that would allow me to be of service. And so for the last 10 years, I have worked to expand healthcare and education access to women and kids and families and old people and young people all across the country. And ensuring that each and every one of us have the healthcare that we need to survive and thrive in the educational opportunities we need to make our lives better. And that's why I want to serve our community here, because I know that government can work for people and that the cracks are just getting bigger, and we need to stop people from falling through them. And that's the role I see for State Senate here in Washington State. So I hope you will consider putting your support behind me and the vision that we share for a better future, and one in which people don't have to risk everything to live productive lives.
All right, thank you. So folks, I gotta tell you, I have you're an excellent audience, all right? You're gonna make this thing really work. So I'm gonna try to get through some of these questions. Some of the questions are being combined because I had like 7 or 8 questions on the same topic, which is wonderful. We're gonna get through those. But first, let us begin. We're gonna start with an easy one for you all. And actually, Emily, you get to take the lead here since Marty began. So with that, the question is, and this question is going to apply to both of you, although it's directed to one candidate, both of you will get to hear and answer to it. The question is, what mostly clearly defines your political philosophy? What mostly clearly defines your political philosophy?
Thank you. I believe that our government works better when we all participate in it, and that its role is to make people's lives better. That's how I see politics as a tool to work in our community. And to me, that looks like supporting important government programs like Medicaid and Medicare, funding our schools, making sure that we have the infrastructure and the job opportunities we need to be great members of society.
Thank you. Same question.
Since we have a mic, I'm going to go ahead and use it. What do you think? My government philosophy, Ronald Reagan had a quote. It says, government, turn it down? Okay, down here. Basically, government is the problem in many cases. The idea that government is supposed to facilitate a fair playing field. Government is supposed to respond to the needs of the citizens that are asking for it to step in and do something. But other than that, the government's supposed to stay out of your way. The free market, the business, your families, you want to have your free will to raise your families the way you want. You want your be able to start a business, to hire employees, and you've seen what happens when things are unleashed. When government gets in the way, it gets to be controlling, and all of a sudden we get recession and depression. So my philosophy of government is the more efficient, more accountable, and the more responsible for your taxpayer dollars, the better.
All right, thank you, Marty. So staying with you, Marty, next question is, what are the top 3 issues facing the 26th district, specifically the South Kitsap? What are the top 3 issues? Your perspective.
Top 3 issues, of course, I'm going to say this, congestion, we already mentioned that. Jen Angel started a congestion project where LEAP is going to be done in the fall. When we go through Gorst, we're on 16, even around the corner into I-5, it's a big issue for us. As we grow in our communities, we need to be able to get home to our families, and the longer we're in the cars, our quality of life goes down. Number 2, we have a huge veterans community, and many of them get left out. Well, I want to improve and have a veterans first policy when it comes to helping homeless, to retraining those that get back to work, and for those going to receiving medical care. And of course, expanded education opportunities. One thing I'm passionate about is in our schools, still 1 in 4 9th grade boys still don't graduate. They lose interest. Because right now we're pushing college. Right now, your ESD, Employment Security Department, your work source, when they've been allowed to go into schools, they've seen a 70% increase. When kids are aware that there are voc tech, CTE, apprenticeship programs, they're excited that they come out of high school with a good career. Eric.
Emily?
All right. I think the 3 main issues surrounding our community often have to do with cost and the inability to feel like we're getting what we deserve. Growth is big here, particularly in the Kitsap region, but also in Gig Harbor. We're seeing an influx in new folks in Bremerton especially, and we're all dealing with the rising cost of living. Affordable housing is a big deal here in Bremerton, but also making sure that we all have access to the homes that we want to live and raise our families in, and the ability to travel freely around the community. But also, beyond the growth and the congestion, we do have an educational crisis. We are in schools that are outdated and overcrowded and underfunded, and our students aren't growing up with the opportunities that they need, and they're not being able to, really thrive. We also are facing a healthcare crisis in our country. It's happening at the federal level, and we're seeing attack after attack on the healthcare institutions that are helping our families, and we need to do something about it.
Thank you. So Emily, next question to you then. Speaking of education, this question is asked by actually the vast majority of our participants today. What have you, actually let me flip this question. Did you support the bond issues in the Peninsula and South Kitsap school districts? Second part of this question is, what have you done to support education in the 26 legislative districts?
Yes, I did support both bond efforts. I wasn't a voter in either South Kitsap School District or Peninsula School District, but I endorsed both bond efforts. And as a graduate of South Kitsap High School and the daughter of an educator at South Kitsap, I know very well how overcrowded South Kitsap is and how desperately we need a new high school. The supermajority requirement to pass bonds means that 40% of our community gets to veto an investment in our public schools, and we need to fix that. So that's something that I think that we should be addressing in the legislature.
Thank you. Marty, same question.
I'm a big champion for education, for expanded opportunities. I'm doing it the right way. The current bonds, I didn't vote for Orchard, I did vote for Gig Harbor. I did not support that bond. We're tax averse in this district right now, where increased taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, car tax, you name it, and then all the specter of Seattle coming our way, where they're afraid of a head tax, carbon tax, and income tax, and so forth. They said 240 million that never goes away. Doesn't make sense. I'm working with a team of people to find a reasonable short-term levy that builds a school in Gig Harbor that actually is fiscally responsible for our community. That's what you do when you're working in the Senate, is work with people and your stakeholders to achieve the results that win-win, that doesn't burden the next generation for years to come.
All right, thank you. So we are just going to get right into some real specific issues related to your district. Next question is, how do you feel about tiny homes to help the homeless in the 26? Your turn, Marty, please.
This is one of those things that comes to land use and zoning. There's a great opportunity for infilling in Kitsap County and Pierce County as well. Tiny homes are a great option for if you want to put a tiny home on your property, sublet it out, tiny homes in different places. It is a valid option for low-income housing, or basically housing those that are making it more affordable. There are other options. There are definitely ones where we can work with local communities to zone properly, to allow for a higher density to actually alleviate this problem. There's also an issue with condos. There is a lot, you can build condos in a much more affordable way to provide more housing, but there's legislation now that makes it dangerous for condo owners. There's a condo liability insurance reform at the federal level and the state level in process, and that will help allow more of them to build more properties, allow for more affordable homes.
Thank you. Emily, same question.
Thank you. I think that tiny homes are a part of a solution that we need to make sure that we're meeting our affordable housing crisis and our homelessness epidemic here in our community. We don't have the capacity currently to house our homeless population simply in tiny homes alone, but it will help. Making sure that we are removing barriers to get people into housing is hugely important. Housing first, making sure that folks have access to a home and a roof is a great approach to making sure everyone gets the services that they need. And in our community, we value that. I would like to say that I don't think that condos are meeting our affordable housing needs. The low-income units in our condo buildings are not that. They're just sub-market rate and are not an affordable option for anyone in our community who's looking for affordable housing. So I think we need real solutions.
Okay, and you've been challenged by Marty, please.
the housing first idea of homelessness. With homelessness, as we've seen, if you see across the water in Seattle, where they set aside $32 million and made the problem 50% worse. The idea is there's multifaceted. Homelessness has multiple reasons. There are drug use issues, there's mental health issues, there are people that choose to be on the street. Giving everybody a home does not solve the homeless issue, doesn't solve the drug issue, doesn't solve the mental health issues. This has to be strategic in ways to identify and discern which population is first, a triage of sorts, and provide the care for the mental health, provide the substance abuse care for those that are addicted to drugs before just giving them homes. We don't want to exacerbate the problem.
Emily, Eric, you have
Sure. We know that Housing First works. It has worked in places across the country, including in Utah. Making sure that people have access to a stable home allows them to get access to the health care that they need. Because if you, say, are suffering from HIV or multi-infection complications, you can't get your regular medication if you don't have a regular place to be. It's just a barrier. We've seen it work, and I'm not saying that we don't need mental health and substance abuse treatment. I think those are also huge priorities for our community, but I don't think we can minimize the importance of housing.
Thank you. So we have a follow-up question, which you may have somewhat answered in this counterpoint, but I will ask it, and if you want to add some more, and actually we'll go to Marty for this one. How would you fix the high cost of housing and increased homeless problem? How are you going to fix it? Dealing for housing and access to housing and homelessness.
First of all, if I was king for a day, I would fix it overnight, but we can't do that as a senator of the Senate. However, you fix housing with supply. You change zoning, you work with local communities, so it makes it more affordable to build, and you can do some infilling, so you have more housing choices. We know supply and demand. The more houses we have, the lower the prices go. It's common economics. As far as fixing the homeless thing, we talked about this already. We have to identify what works and what doesn't work. Over in Spokane, the city of Spokane and the county of Spokane, they piloted a program. They said, we understand it's multifaceted, and we can't take on the whole thing at a time, but how do we take a section of the problem and see if it works? Any kind of business, any kind of science, you try something, you measure it, and it doesn't get the results you want. If it does, you can do more. If it doesn't, you scrap it and go somewhere else. Over there, they actually said, okay, we're going to deal with the veteran homeless issue first. Because many of that have to do with mental health and drugs, or mental health that led to drugs. And they've had great success by attacking one segment first and then going to the rest.
Thank you. Emily, same question.
I believe that we need more affordable housing, but I believe that when we leave it in the hands of the private market, then what we see is, like in the condo buildings that have been going up around Bremerton, we see some affordable units that are just maybe $100, $200 below market rate. And they're not actually affordable for low-income folks in our community, nor are they affordable for our homeless neighbors. We need to work together with strong coalitions like Homes for All, bringing nonprofit organizations like Habitat for Humanity into the process to come up with real answers that make sure that folks at all levels, income levels or lack of income, have access to the homes that they need to be successful. And I would counter that most of the homeless folks in our community are not homeless by choice, nor are they self-sabotaging because they choose drugs over something else. Our community is suffering from a lack of mental health and substance abuse treatment, and we need to solve that.
On 2 points there, just for example, when government gets involved in affordable housing, the average cost for a condo unit in Seattle is $242,000. When private sector builds the same condo, it is $74,000, 1/4 of the cost, which means you can rent it out or sell it for a lot less than you could when government gets involved. When government gets involved in that way, controlling who gets which housing, that way, it drives the price of affordable housing up. And the second challenge, which I just totally blanked on, well, save it for later, I guess.
Thank you. Emily, you may retort to that, please.
Sure. I think we also need to talk about rental units. in this conversation because in Kitsap County, the average rental price requires a person to work 40 hours a week and make $19 an hour. And we don't have a lot of those jobs. And those housing prices are not affordable for the vast majority of renters in our community. So when we talk about affordable housing, we need to not just be talking about purchasing, we need to be talking about the skyrocketing rents in our community.
Thank you. You guys confused me a little bit, but I think Marty is next. Next question. All right. Keep it up though, that's great. The question is, do you support affordable health care? And the second part of that is, how would you assure Washington residents would be able to afford comprehensive health care?
Once again, I'm a free market guy, understanding that the more you have competition, the more it drives insurance prices down. The more opportunities and more choices you do. With healthcare, when government mandates what you have and when you have it, it drives the price up. We know that. When you have a monopoly system, it drives the price up and it drives the quality down. The more competition you have, the lower the price is. Obviously, it's one of those things at the federal level and the state level, we advocate for being able to sell insurance across state lines, which means you have greater competition, greater options, and lower price. The idea, too, is mandated coverage where we have it now. My son, who's 21, who's gone through leukemia, doesn't need OBGYN services, doesn't need those things. He shouldn't have to pay for those up front.
Thank you.
I have worked for my career to make sure that folks have access to affordable health care. I've seen the huge burden that attacks from the federal level are having on our healthcare system for families around the state and around the country. And we definitely need to work hard to make sure that we're meeting families' needs. I don't believe that free market is the solution. We are seeing folks who are dealing with higher and higher healthcare costs and the inability to pay. I've seen in my family's personal life how Medicaid and that government system allowed us to thrive and allowed my sister to live a full life. And I know there are a lot of families like that in our community who depend on these systems. I agree that the ACA is not a perfect solution. We need better healthcare solutions that allow us to take some of the cost out of the system. Right now in our private insurance market, there's a 10% overhead in insurance coverage, and that's something we need to fix.
Thank you. So moving from healthcare, next topic is actually moving into indigent services. And to you, Emily, question is, what will you do about Olympia not fully funding indigent legal services and costing county taxpayers significant expenses in covering the differences?
I've talked to a lot of our county officials who are worried about the increasing costs locally for programs that Olympia is not deciding to fund. I think our job in Olympia is to make the lives of hardworking folks in our community and our local governments easier, to make us work more smoothly. And I believe indigent folks in our community, the hardest working, poorest folks among us, need strong support, including legal services, and that's something that I will work to fund across the aisle.
Thank you. Marty?
Like anything, the fundamental principle for government is to make sure our communities are safe. And then we have to work, and then we know that in our Constitution, funding education is a paramount duty. I think I would always take this at a point in time where it becomes priorities of government. Let's fund the first things first, and let's be wise with your taxpayer dollars, and find a way to work with local communities that makes sense on how we deliver that financing basically for those services.
Great. Okay, so moving on from affordable health care tax to pot. Of course, it's logical. So the question is, you guys are staying with me, right? Okay, so should pot taxes going to cities and counties be increased to fully support school resource officers in all schools?
Okay, whether you're for pot or against pot, it is legal in our state. I will say that much for sure. But I don't like that when you're told by your government and your politicians that, oh, we need to pass this tax to fund education, whether it be the lotto taxes, whether it be pot taxes, whether it be alcohol taxes. The only thing tied to actually what they told you would be was your gas taxes, which goes to your roads. Your pot taxes are going to the general fund, your lotto taxes are going to the general fund. Even your forestry, which is supposed to be used for education, is being diverted and given away to the federal government. So, bottom line is, those things have to come first. If we're going to tax anything, I don't support an increased tax at this point, because you haven't proven as your state government that it's actually going to be used for education. Show me where it will be tied to it, and we may have a different conversation.
Marty, Emily, same question.
Can you repeat the?
Be happy to, at any time.
Yeah.
So the question is, should pot taxes going to cities and counties be increased to fully support school resource officers in all schools?
So, I think that we need better funding model for education. We did a lot with McCleary this year, but our schools are still struggling. And we need to be looking across the budget to see where we can make sure that our money is being directed smartly. I also feel like we need to make sure that we're making thoughtful decisions. And off the top of my head, I don't know that this is the right tax to fund SRO officers, but I do know that our schools need to be supported as strongly as possible, and we need to make sure we're making thoughtful decisions around doing just that.
Thank you. I did. It's kind of a challenge. I just want to say that I do support school resource officers. I do support keeping our kids safe. We just have to find a way of working with the local communities on how we do that in a way that is good for the school and good for our kids and our families. So it's not really a challenge at all. So.
All right, Berlin, your candidate, your bond.
No, thank you.
Okay. So then, going to Marty, next question, going from marijuana to abortion, of course. Do you support taxpayer-funded abortion services? If yes, why do you believe people who oppose abortion should be forced to help pay for this?
But this is obviously easy. This is where we are different in our viewpoint. And that's part of America. It's part of your choices as well. I'm pro-life. I'm a Christian as well. But the bottom line is you can believe what you want to believe. I just don't feel like the government should have to pay for abortion services. And they don't. That's why the Hyde Amendment's at the federal level and here local.